So Mona, tell us about fluoride. A little bit about your research in fluoride.
Okay, so I live in a part of the country, where a lot of my friends are super super health conscious, and a lot of them, like when they hear that there's fluoride in the toothpaste, they're not interested because they think fluoride is bad. And so, anyways, I honestly feel very strongly like I'm a very ethical person, and I don't want to sell a product that I'm afraid is harmful or bad in some way. And so I did a lot of research on the fluoride. I read a lot of different things, and I read this one study in particular that was written by this guy, this doctor who was anti-fluoride, right? And as I did my research, the thing I realized is they're talking about something that's called systemic fluoride, and by systemic, they're talking about the fluoride that's in drinking water, or a lot of times, doctors recommend that you give supplements or drops to your children to prevent cavities. Okay, so we're talking about ingesting or drinking internally a bunch of fluoride. And even in this study that was anti fluoride, he was talking about, the studies show that fluoride is beneficial as topical usage. So doesn't it make more sense to just use toothpaste for the fluoride? So it's actually funny. So when you get this knee-jerk reaction, and also I seem to get it a lot from young mothers or mothers, and I think that's because there was a real awareness of people who were making baby formula with tap water and exposing their babies to lots of fluoride. So I think when you look at an issue like this and someone says, oh, does it have fluoride? You just very light touch. It's very like, oh, this does have fluoride. And if you feel uncomfortable with that, maybe it's not for you. But let me tell you something. I've done a lot of research on the fluoride, and the thing I've noticed is that they're not talking about topical usage of fluoride. They're talking about ingesting it, drinking it in your water, taking supplements, and you have to look at the amount of exposure you have to it. If you think about what you're doing with the toothpaste, is you're brushing your teeth and you're rinsing most of it out. Now, obviously, I can't say that no trace of fluoride will enter your system, but it's so negligible. And I think you also have to look at why, with all of this crazy controversy, why do people still have, why do dentists still use fluoride? Why is it still in most toothpaste? It's simply because fluoride is so effective in strengthening and rebuilding your teeth. What fluoride does is it actually gets absorbed into the enamel of your tooth, and then it attracts and bonds with calcium and phosphorus to make the teeth stronger and to prevent cavities. And the electromagnetic waves associated with cell phones and laptops. The truth is we do live in a world that is getting more and more toxic, and I don't really think there's a way to avoid it unless you don't live, unless you live way out in the mountains where no one has, no man has walked and there's no one's touched anything. And I think the solution is to be smart about what you do expose yourself to, and to beef up your immune system and to eat well is actually what you should do. Okay, so that's my take on fluoride. I think it's completely a handleable thing. You just tell them the facts.
Awesome. And I know that you can also, if they, they're not too sure, they can use it for a little bit, whiten their teeth, and then
That's another
stop
thing.
for
And that's the other thing I say too. Like, again, it's not. You realize it's all a matter of the amount and the exposure. For example, if you drink a glass of red wine, that's supposed to be good for you. If you drink too much, you're an alcoholic. If you're exposed to too many UV rays, you get cancer. But you need UV rays to produce vitamin D. So you really have to look at it. It's not even the thing so much as how much of it. And I think almost anything in too much is not going to be good for you. So again, that's what I'm saying. Use good judgment. Obviously, there's another thing I ran into, and that is the whole thing of there's saccharin sweetener in the toothpaste. And that was an interesting one because I've heard. I grew up when I was growing up, saccharin was the main sweetener, and I remember my dad, who was borderline diabetic, used it a lot. And I think about maybe in the 70s, maybe 80s, it came out that saccharin causes cancer and it's bad, and I think at one point the FDA was trying to make a move to actually have it banned. Excuse me. Well, it turns out in later research, they found out that the rats were getting cancer. It wasn't the saccharin causing it. And in fact, the way that rats were developing the cancer was physically impossible in a human body. It was like the weirdest thing. And so, after lots of research, even states like California, which are, California is probably the most stringent state in the entire country about health and what you can put in your stuff, right? They have all kinds of laws about it. But they've actually, their Proposition 65, they took back the whole ban on saccharin and some other proposition. And the FDA officially, kind of put saccharin back on and said there's nothing wrong with it. And especially, in a situation where you're just using it to flavor something that you spit out, for sure. So I found that really interesting that saccharin still has the bad name and the bad label and is associated with really bad things, when all along it was just some weird, not correctly, whatever the test. Also, you have to realize is when they test these lab rats, they're injecting this stuff like tons. If you look at how big a rat is, and you see how much stuff they're actually injecting into the rat, it's a little like, well, gosh, I don't know, maybe the amount, the fact that you're injecting it directly into their system has something to do with it. But in any event, I'm just telling you, I feel like you can feel very, very confident about the ingredients in this product.
Thank you so much, Mona.